All right, I am recording. I am going into the Remarkist app.
This is episode 13, right?
And we are.
Yes, lucky 13.
This is episode 13. This is Dear Emily and Richard. All right, you all know how it goes. We are going to, we are going to start our episodes at the same time by hitting the play button on our remotes on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
I swear it was.
Whoa, sorry.
She would after half a gallon of eggs.
Sorry about that. My headphones weren't in.
Hey, Hillary, you're unmuted. That's how you meet the greatest people.
They talked about this in season 1. Why are they surprised?
I was going to say, this is cute, but I mean, I don't buy it.
I think backpacking would be pretty cool.
Definitely, I just think that Emily would know that they were going to do something like this, because it's so Lorelai. Well, maybe it's not that Lorelai now that I think about it.
Richard's face just gets me every time. He's just like, what? I love that.
So
You aren't ready for this episode.
To show how my mom is the parallel of Emily, she always said that she had to take us to Europe so no man could sweep us off our feet by offering us experiences she hadn't given us.
I kind of love that, though. That's cute.
Yeah. But every time I hear her talk on this episode, I'm like, I can just hear my mother's voice being like, "You're gonna sleep in the park? What?"
I mean, it was a cute scene, but by now I would think that Emily would immediately know that that's what they were really going to be doing.
And hospitals are gross when you're old. I did one in Iceland, and it was kind of gross.
You know, I may not like Dean, but Jared is fantastic.
The best scene is coming up. So funny. Yeah, seeing Milo in the credits, I was like, he's in this episode, and now I just remembered.
Oh my gosh, I just remembered too.
I love that
Dean.
I love that Dean's like a full-on Stars Hollow now, you know.
Jeez. This is a little annoying, I gotta be honest with you.
I'm with you, John.
It's just a little over the top.
Couldn't you just hand it in the list?
Yeah, it's just take it in order. You're just putting it in order. You're just taking it.
I like how the order is written on a piece of a box from like a box of nails. Good props.
Good observation.
I didn't hear that bit. My dog started barking. What was that?
The order's written on a box of grip right nails. Good props.
Oh, that's great.
That was so well done by Jared.
Oh, I forgot about this part too. Yeah, this is a funny little story that's in this episode too.
Is that for real? Do women do that?
No, none of the ones I know.
There are women, and then there are Sherry.
Exactly.
Extra before extra was a word.
Rory's so sweet here.
Is that Epcot?
It's a golf ball. Yeah.
Oh, a golf ball. I thought it was the thing from Epcot Center.
That's what that looks like. It always reminded me of that. I mean, same thing. It's not a golf ball. I always thought it was supposed to look like a golf ball. It's not supposed to look like a golf ball. The Epcot Center.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe so. That's funny. I never thought of that. I think it was just supposed to look futuristic.
It kills me that Suki throws that cake away because cake's my favorite food.
Yeah, they could have just eaten it themselves.
Doesn't send the same message.
The chop is just so perfect, though. Like, that had to have been done in one take.
Yeah, it was a good flip.
It's kind of exciting to think that maybe this show is going to go to Europe this season. Or next season.
Here we go.
Wow, really good casting.
I've always thought that some people complain that they don't look enough like Lorelai and Chris, but I think it's very effective.
I don't think he looks much like Chris, but I think she looks a lot like Lorelai.
She's just too short.
I think the look is good. I think I had trouble with other factors, but we can talk about those later. I'm not convinced with the character development. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
His hair really does look like David Sutcliffe's from like season 1, though.
So Emily kept the same couch for 18 years? Because Lorelai was sitting on this couch at the beginning of the episode.
I thought that. Well, I mean, at the point of the actual show, it must be an antique.
Was there more to them, or we'll discuss it later?
We'll discuss it later.
Love that side eye.
Sure.
Have they made up since last episode?
Nope.
Apparently
No.
not.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure I was able to read Paris on that one. She didn't seem as intensely upset with her as she was last episode.
Well, she exacted her revenge with the photo, so that probably calmed her down a little.
I don't think she screwed up. I think it's just called nature.
Well, spoken as Maureen is a woman with no children of her own, she doesn't really get how those things work.
Yeah, none of Sherry's friends have kids, right?
Yeah, like the whole
Correct.
rescheduled school thing.
I do like 80s Emily.
I like the season 1 photo album picture of Lorelai in the coming out dress instead of this one. It was a much prettier gown.
I love in Lorelai's room how you can see how Emily's decorated it, and then you see little bits of Lorelai with the poster on the back of the door.
That dress is not tight. I'm sorry. It could totally fit.
Realization is dawning.
Was that what that was? Was that her realizing that she's pregnant?
Yeah.
We had it 3 months ago.
I could never tell if she was realizing she was pregnant or like realizing she can't hide it anymore.
No cell phones.
Oh, right.
Lorelai's wild gesticulations are hilarious.
So good.
Everyone's working. Luke was about to go on a date. How late do these people work?
Some people do work that late, I guess.
That blonde always.
What's up with the blonde? What's up with the blonde hair?
So bad. It's horrible.
I think another role. I bet another role, right? Or no?
That was always my guess. It's such a stark.
Had to have been, because she's like a pretty popular actress.
Yeah, that's another role.
I actually like when they change a character's hair that you haven't seen in a while because, like, realistically, people do different things with their hair.
I really like this character.
Boy, you listen. Did you get to?
I did.
I think Rory probably got to the hospital around like 5 o'clock. Because she was at the Franklin after school when she got the call.
Yeah, Nicole and Luke were going all the way to New York, and it's not that far, but that makes sense.
And it's February, so at 5 o'clock in February, it's dark in Connecticut, so it all fits.
Not totally episode, but like they didn't spell Leilani right in the Netflix subtitles.
Yeah, their spelling's not very accurate sometimes. I love how smooth the transitions are from back and forth.
Yeah, I agree. I love that one.
I love young Richard.
She didn't spawn the kid herself, buddy.
I still hate Strobe.
Oh, even more so after this episode.
Yeah, not very endearing.
I'm always shocked at how huge that landing is with 2 people sitting on it.
Does that actress have contacts in?
She's got brown eyes, doesn't she?
Yeah, she looked like she had those like really dark blue colored contacts.
Yes, per Google, she has brown eyes.
For my TV, she looked like she had brown eyes. Oh, not blue at all. They look violet to me.
Yeah, on the DVD copy, they turn up super purple. They're like the same color as her sweatshirt.
Rory and her Ugg boot. You can tell this is 2003. But like, did you bring him to school?
I feel like you can stuff a pair of Uggs in your backpack if you're really pressed to.
She probably wore them to school on the bus, and then she didn't get, I don't know, and then she probably had her little, what are they called, shoes in her backpack, and then she probably stuck them in her locker. Okay, yeah.
I love that Lorelai is doing this. I love it.
She is remarkable.
I just love this so much. Jeez, Emily.
For someone who's obsessed with family loyalty.
This scene reminds me of Juno.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies.
She is a brave girl.
Babsy just said she loves that she's listening to this in German. The original.
Such a good song.
My husband didn't know that the original version was in German because the original artist also recorded it in English and he'd never heard the German version.
We listened to the German song in my German class in high school. My teacher played it for us.
What's so funny is that they picked the part that was suitable for a somber moment to with her all alone there, but the rest of the song is very boppy.
Sherry's IV on her hand cracks me up because it's just wrong.
I had surgery on my elbow. They put the IV in the back of my right hand and it hurt like heck.
I still have a scar on the back of my hand from my IV when I just had my baby 2.5 years ago.
They use the back of my hand a lot because the veins are easy to find there.
By the way, somebody on Instagram Live just pointed out something really cool. Storyline consistency. When young Lorelai is watching Quincy, that is a throwback to season 1, which is what she says she's watching.
Yep. And eating a pepper sandwich.
And
yeah, I mean, we poke fun at the inconsistencies of the show all the time, but I think that's a really solid. That's a solid one. You know, that was 3 seasons ago, or no, 2.5.
And at some point, she references the fact that she was listening to 99 Lip Balloons in a later season, so they call back to it then as well. So they do get some details spot on for years.
When did he become her fiance? Did we miss that?
It was a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
He proposed? I remember him going back to her, but he proposed?
They never actually
we didn't see it.
Oh, this is a good scene here.
Emily asked Lorelai if he's going to marry her, and Lorelai said yes. And when they were fighting in the foyer, she says, "Are you going to marry her?" And he says yes.
Funny.
His trench coat, I can't.
Ooh, second Moby Dick reference. This one from Jess.
Why is Luke's open at 11:30 on a weeknight? I mean, it is Friday, but still.
Kirk never left.
I do love Luke and Jess.
This runs a close second to the lake scene.
I want to know where he was going to go because Rory's not there. Like, what's to do in Stars Hollow at 11:30 at night?
And go to
on
the
Friday.
bridge and read a book, pretty much.
He was trying to leave the apartment empty.
That's what I thought. That's what I got. I thought he was like kind of trying to.
Yeah, that's what he was
doing. It for
doing.
Lou.
Yeah, that's why he said to Nicole, "Sorry, I tried."
That never occurred to me.
Yeah, the part I don't really get is I don't
needs more
understand
time?
why Luke was so upset about it.
First date.
It's very presumptuous on Jess's part, is I think what upsets Luke.
Yeah.
I don't know. He didn't have to. He didn't have to take him up on it.
That's the cleanest surgical gown I've ever seen.
Those of you who are moms, do they actually do that? Take all the babies into one room and put them like that?
Not
when I did it.
Not anymore. They used to.
My sister's a labor and delivery nurse. They don't do that.
They did not do that for my daughter. She was
They're in the
delivered
room.
and then given to us.
Yeah,
right
they're
there.
in the room almost the whole time with you now.
My sister delivered her second, and she was by herself in the hospital. Her husband had to go home to be with their toddler, and she had the option to send him to the nursery for the night. And so they just brought him in for feedings, but he spent the night in the nursery.
Those babies are all a bit older than a newborn.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah. I was
No.
wrapped in the same cloth as a baby. Oh, my God. What a throwback.
They're the same. I think they've had the same ones for like 40 years.
I was going to say they had the same ones at the hospital for us, too.
All of my nieces and nephews have been wrapped in those blankets.
The same little like pink and blue striped hats too.
When I had my second child, I did the same thing. I had the option to send him to the nursery, but we were the only people on the labor and delivery floor, and the nurses would just come in and take him because my husband was at home with my toddler.
I love this with Lorelai and Emily.
Same.
Her hair and makeup is very good in this scene. I love the pop of color on her lip.
That dress.
The height of fashion.
Sleeves, Diana. Sleeves.
The puffiest in the world. Ah, such a gut punch.
Kelly's an amazing actress.
Has Emily's hair always been like that in that painting?
Yep.
Yes. Time.
I'm going to open up the couch for folks to join us up here for a little.
Oh my gosh, tomorrow's episode. I'm so excited.
conversation. And the couch is open. Please come on up and let's gab about this song.
I deferred this entire episode. I've always loved the flashbacks, but just that last Emily scene, that's just the cherry on top.
Hey, John, what were you saying about Babsy and that song, 99 Balloons?
Oh, Babsy was she was watching the episode as well, and she said that she just loves that they use the German version.
Yeah,
that she's listening to the German version, the original.
Yeah,
The original German version is the superior.
My childhood. I think most people listen to the German version. Like the English version just does not hold up.
That's true, at least for me.
I mean, when I was
Like
younger,
what?
I only knew the English version. I mean, the English version at least for this child of the 80s was the only one that I heard on the radio. They wouldn't have played the German version on the radio, and I was like, just basically, I just listened to exclusive like pop top 40s music for most.
I think I heard that somewhere, John. I had a mixtape. I had a compilation tape that had the German version on it when I was a kid back in those days. So that's how I heard it. I didn't hear it on the radio either. So
I feel like the German version was played in Canada because I think that's the one I learned, and I didn't know that there was an English version by the same artist until much later.
I would just like to say, speaking on music, the La La song at the end of this episode is like one of my favorite Sam Phillips songs that she made for the show. And that's all I have to say. I support this message.
Is that one? It goes. It's the one that's like la 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 la.
Close.
That is it. That
sing it for us,
like,
Carl.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
Oh,
that one.
Oh, right.
La, 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 la.
Do we all have
Y'all,
favorite La-Las?
Nikki,
La,
no.
la, la, la.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, don't even get me started on the La-Las. I'll spend a whole hour talking about them. But yeah, that's like one of my favorites.
Well, I mean, there's just
Karaoke.
all kinds. I think the one that I was doing is from a different episode or a different scene. But she really did different La-Las for different episodes. I didn't even realize that.
Oh, we all have favorite La-Las. I had a friend record a bunch of my favorite La-Las for a web series that I made about Gilmore Girls.
Oh my God, Sabrina, thinking outside the box. I love it.
That was one of the things Jason noticed in season 1, and he would point out to me, oh, the La-Las are different in this one. And it was, I thought it was kind of interesting. So Carl, Jason's my other half, who's never watched the show until this rewatch. He's been watching it with me. And that was one of the first things he pointed out as well.
How does he feel about it so far?
About the show? He seems to like it, okay. He still likes Miss Maisel better because, it's not targeted towards young teens and young adults, but he has been enjoying the show. He's still watching it. Let's put it that way. He could leave the room if he didn't want to watch it.
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. I will say that with the La-Las, I noticed how big of an importance they were because of the DVD box set. I don't know if y'all bought like seasons 1 through 7 of the DVD box set. Yeah, and like every time you went to the main menu, there'd be the La-Las. And I always remember that, like, I think season 3 and season 4 were my favorite ones. This is very, like, big Gilmore Girls fan mode. So excuse my obsession, but, like, those were, like, my favorite La-Las. I think, like, season 3 was really sad, and then season 4 was the goofy one. But yeah, I'll point them out while we continue this rewatch.
Carl, during the next hiatus, you should do a La-La episode, like little thing with all of us during the hiatus where we get together and we talk about the La-Las. And maybe Sabrina can bring her recording.
I don't know. I don't know if Carl knows about the hiatus, about what we're doing with hiatus.
Oh yeah, I forgot it wasn't last time.
Yeah, so basically after after every other season. So after season 2, after season 4, and after season 6, we take a week off that I call hiatus. It's like a forced hiatus. But during that week, we like try to do all kinds of like, we try to host other events, and other members of the community will actually host them rather than me hosting them. And the idea is to try to recreate the feeling that you get in between seasons for a show that you really love, where you're like super excited for the new season to drop. Like we're going to try like in that week to get the anticipation for the release. Well, like, you know, in the next hiatus, the release of season 5, right? Or after season 6, the release of season 7. And so during that week, we call it hiatus week. And during that week, we do other, you know, events that are Gilmore Girls related.
It totally worked so well last time, John. I think we were all like so excited about season 3 coming, and just
yeah.
Yeah. I think it really worked. Yeah. The last hiatus week, just to kind of give you an idea, like we had somebody we watched the unaired pilot during that week. Somebody hosted an event where we all found a copy of the unaired pilot, like on a website somewhere on the internet. We all watched that. Then we
did.
Then we rewatched the pilot again the next day in order to, like, you know, sort of compare. Nikki did an event that was specifically about the music on Gilmore Girls and just sort of music on television in general. And the real Dave Rogalski, who is married to Helen Pye, one of the producers of the show that the character Dave Rogalski is loosely based on. He actually joined us for that event, and we chatted about music and the music on the show because he knows a lot about it. He was involved in some of it. So that's what we're talking about when we say hiatus week, and like, you know, you should consider hosting an event. And if you're really into the La-Las, we could just make a whole session where that's all we talk about is the La-Las.
Oh, wow. If we did that, then we'd also have to include the Beppas. I mean, like, those slap too. I mean,
Rena and I are doing that.
We can do La-La karaoke.
We're in the Discord, we're doing like Baba, where it's like post your favorite La-Las with the lyrics
to each other. Yeah.
Hey, so Charlie, I made you moderator really quick because I'm gonna actually, I'm still here in Clubhouse, but I'm just gonna change my app over to the Remarkist app and just sort of read some comments that may have come in during the episode. So if you see anybody come into the room that wants to come up on stage, please bring them up, unless it looks like it could potentially be a troll.
Okay. I don't think we've had any of those in a couple nights. I feel like they kind of stopped after the weekend.
Where's that guy who was singing? He should do a La-La song.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Oh my God.
So Mary, now that we've watched the episode, Mary, please tell us why you love this one so much all around. I'm now that you can actually like talk about it.
I love that it fills in so many of the holes that like of the past. Like, to me, this episode and the episode where what's her name shows up and talks about like it's how Lorelai showed up. I can't remember her name now.
Mia?
The owner of the end. Mia, yeah. Like, these two episodes are so connected because it actually shows us what happened leading up to the pregnancy. It shows like the families like losing their minds over the pregnancy, how Richard is just like completely shut down, heartbroken. So it just fills all that history, and I love it. And I kind of, like I said, I see myself as Lorelai a little bit. I did not get pregnant in my teens, but I kind of admire her for, in my opinion, standing up for herself and for her baby and saying, I want something different. They haven't listened to me all of this time. They haven't talked to me all of this time. I'm just going to have to do it, and going out and doing it.
You know what? I agree with that, Mary, because like one of the biggest reasons why I like this episode and why it's one of my favorites too is because it filled up those holes, and because this was the first episode where I really saw Emily like still be, Emily, like judgmental, critical about things that Lorelai does, but definitely be a protector of her daughter, especially when her and Richard talk to Christopher's parents. There's like another scene where like Richard shows that he's very protective of like Lorelai and Rory, but like in this one, Emily does it in like a very Emily way where like she brings up the fact that because they keep talking about, oh my God, Lorelai, we're gonna be so ashamed, we're gonna be so ashamed. She's like, okay, but Christopher's as well, like this is a two-party thing. He is at fault just as much as her. Like he should, what is he going to do? What's gonna go on here? Like, yeah, our daughter is pregnant, but what about him? And I just thought that was really cool. And then the fact that she got all worried about where she was when she was pregnant and all this stuff, it just like when I would rewatch that episode, it really made me go, okay, like these are the moments where like Emily shows where like her caring about Lorelai and like really caring about Lorelai in a way that I could understand it is shown. And I really love that about this episode.
One thing I'll throw in here that I think is really interesting is like when I look at the pattern with Lorelai of avoidant behavior, right? I guess you couldn't quite qualify what Richard does in the scene where Strobe and Francine, he and Emily are talking as avoidant behavior because he does quote unquote handle it. But the way in which he says like one sentence and then says there's nothing else to talk about and gets up and leaves pretty much. I wonder if the writers are trying to show us like perhaps where Lorelai gets her avoidant behavior from. Just a thought.
Oh, I completely agree with that. Absolutely. I think they're showing the strong-headedness from Emily, as well as the whole, I've made the decision is done, we're not going to talk about it anymore. And Lorelai constantly acts like that too in her decision making. Yeah, totally.
In the scene in the hospital, I actually thought Richard was too comic, like with the shoes, wearing the wrong shoes for this. I don't know. Was that just me? It was almost like he wasn't that concerned that his 16-year-old daughter's having a baby.
Yeah, I found that a little bizarre too.
I thought that was denial. I thought that was his like self-protective denial. Like he doesn't want to accept the reality of what's happening or the enormity of what's happening.
Oh, okay.
Anyone? Like, is that me making stuff?
I thought it was like denial. I didn't look that deeply into it. That's interesting.
I thought that it was. I think it was more that he was just trying to distract Emily.
I think and then to maintain composure and like he's trying to be a leader for his family. Like the way he kind of redirects Emily's attention and is trying to tell her like how to respond, and he's just trying to, like I said, just be a leader. It's kind of how I took it.
Just to like throw this out here, because something I didn't know as a woman, apparently men's dress shoes are just like abhorrently uncomfortable normally. So, maybe it's just real.
I've heard that too.
They can be. I mean, really good ones though. I would imagine I don't know. Depends on how long you've been wearing them. Depends on the quality. It seemed a little weird to me. I found that the tone. I felt the tone a little off on all. To be honest with it, on all of those flashback scenes.
Yeah, because he's only wearing like ultra expensive Italian leather shoes, so I can't imagine he's wearing something inexpensive and uncomfortable.
My husband has a pair of dress shoes that his rich father bought him that he says are as comfortable as his tennis shoes, and they were expensive.
a good pair of Italian shoes for men or women can be very comfortable. I'll agree with that.
And I'll agree that they are very expensive.
Yes, that is a given when for the ones I'm talking about.
Someone mentioned the subtitles on Netflix when we were doing the watch, and I just wanted to like throw in a comment here. I don't know if anyone else watches subtitles on occasionally, but the dialogue in this show is so heavy that the subtitles frequently cut out like half of a sentence that they deem to be redundant.
100%.
Oh, yeah, 100%. All the time. They do
That bothers me so much every time I watch.
Yeah, like the only time I've seen the subtitles be the most accurate were on the TV on DVDs. Like Netflix, oh my God, it's awful.
Yeah, the other day, Lorelai said something like, huh, and then a full sentence, and they only included the huh. It was hilarious. Like she had a full important piece of dialogue, and all they kept was the huh. That was the only thing that they deemed important enough.
You know the fact that like, oh, go ahead.
I've noticed that too a lot, where it's like that they'll say a sentence, and then like the other half of the sentence will be like or somebody else will start talking, and it'll end that, and then start their conversation and or what they're saying, and it won't finish the whole sentence the other person said. And I'm like, what? If I missed that, then I would have just missed it altogether, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, like I just started laughing because I thought of I met someone out in Los Angeles, and he said that he worked for Netflix, and he's actually one of the people who type in the subtitles for TV shows. And I just thought of how like someone who was working for Netflix the day when they, were adding the subtitles for Gilmore Girls, maybe like in the middle of it, they were like, what, I'm done. I can't. Y'all talk too fast. Just over it, and just kept moving to the next scene.
Well, I mean, the amount of dialogue in those episodes is just, it's almost double what would be in a television show of that length. I mean, in most shows, 45-minute long shows, at about a minute a page, you're looking at around a 50-page script. And some of those scripts like are closing in on 90 pages.
So like, I wonder if like the person who's like doing the subtitle is on there, do they actually have the script, or are they sitting there watching it and typing it in?
They're watching it. Okay. They're almost definitely watching it. And so it's not a matter of speed. I mean, they can always rewind and then just, it's just, I'm sure it's just a matter of they don't want to put that much text on the screen. I mean, like if they put all of that text, you especially see it when there's like dialogue between two characters, and they do the sort of split dialogue thing where like half the screen has one person's dialogue and the other half has the other. And sometimes the amount of words that each one of them is saying, it would just take up the entire lower half of the screen. And so that's probably why they do that.
They could make it smaller because that Netflix has that giant cat font, and then the rest of the shows I watch do not.
Yeah, but actually, no, actually, we just learned, somebody in the community actually mentioned that's a settings thing. You can change your Netflix setting to have it be bigger or smaller.
Is it per show? Because like my others, I have compared like several other shows, and it's all small. And
really?
Gilmore's is huge.
What I was
told it's per show.
What I had heard is that you actually go into the settings for something, and you can change it to big, small, and so. I mean, imagine if that. I don't even know if that's the biggest. Maybe it is the biggest, but
I'm going to try it now.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just because it's a lot of dialogue. So
So you can change the text size, but you have to go like on the website and count things.
You have to do it in the website. Yeah.
But it's funny, how would it have like auto done Why would different shows be different if I never changed it? You know, why would it just default to a bigger?
I don't know. I don't know. It's probably it might be a default. It might be like now all of their shows are defaulting to something, and before it was defaulting to something.
I don't know.
else.
I've never changed it, so I don't know why like each of mine would be different. Like, you think that would be a hassle to change each episode, or I don't know. It's each show.
I know there is definitely a difference between the shows. Like, I don't know, like, why. I don't know if it's something that, like, some of the shows, like, I feel like when Modern Family was on, it was the Spanish version of Modern Family. Like, when the titles, the credits would come on, it would have the Spanish dubbers. So, like, they had bought, like, the Spanish version. So I don't know if they have, like, a different setting program into their shows, but they definitely do have different fonts for different shows.
I would love to be a subtitler. This is my inner Paris speaking, but it drives me crazy when they use the wrong your or the wrong there.
Oh, same.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's blasphemy.
I'm sorry. Can we go back and talk about the show a little bit and maybe talk about subtitling later?
Totally. Sorry.
Sure.
That's it.
So I was hoping we could talk about Dean in this episode.
Sure.
I mean, I know he's only in a short scene, but I really love Dean in this episode because I really feel like he starts to take some of his power back, I guess. You know, we've talked about this before, that in season 1, he definitely was written to seem smarter and more on an intellectually equal level to Rory. And then they slowly started to dumb him down. And I just think him sparring off of Jess in this episode is just so great. Like, he just makes Jess look so small and insignificant. And I just like that we're seeing the Dean that we knew and loved.
Yeah. He was definitely,
I liked him.
Sticking it to Jess there in the diner.
like when he says, like, go slowly so I can check them off as you go. Like, it's just, you know, it's
he was
loving
so
it. Good. Yeah, it's just like, you can just take it, Jess.
Jess set himself up and he called a clown, man. He said, talk to the clown.
He really did. Yeah, Chris, he really did. I was like, that was dope.
I didn't get why Jess was I mean, Jess is working there and somebody comes in with an order. I just didn't really get why he needed to make a big deal about it. It was like,
because he's just being a jerk. Sorry, Lily.
Yeah.
He's just being a jerk.
But
thank you.
Like, I don't know, like, even his quip about, like, you know, like, I'm just putting in an order for all of Connecticut, which was odd because it just didn't feel like that it was that many. I mean, has Luke's Diner never gotten an order for more than 5 people?
Well, I think that the point would be that he didn't know that he was getting food for the construction crew. So he thinks that Dean is just ordering 6 burgers for himself.
No,
I know, but I mean, that's hard for me to believe.
He thought he was trying to come and mess with him, probably.
It seems like something you would do if you were ordering for maybe your family or whatnot. I don't know. There was just something about it that felt a little off to me.
But also,
I think Jess
like, 2 episodes ago, Dean was like, yeah, I'm going to steal your girl from you. So he's not really in the friendly mood towards Dean.
And Dean also tried to fight.
Did Dean say, I'm going to steal your girl from you?
Well, not
Dean
words,
said,
but he was like, look, you got her, and you were her friend, and look, I'm her friend now.
Yeah,
So,
I think he's trying to send a message, like, you're going to lose them the way you got them, right? Like, so it may not be him necessarily, but it could be somebody else who, like, quote unquote, takes Rory away, even though, like, Rory is a grown girl, you know, she can make.
She got the power of choice.
So, you know, I didn't see it as that way, but, you know, go off, I guess.
I'll also add here, Dean tried to fight Jess at the end of the Thanksgiving episode, where Rory kisses Jess at the end of the episode and Dean sees it, and then Jesse trying to bring those extra trash bags to Taylor's bins, right? He like stalks him, even though Jesse says he doesn't want to speak to him, you know. So there's bad blood there. I mean,
yeah, he definitely antagonizes him in a way that felt a little physical.
But what I will say is that, like, sometimes the boy stuff in Gilmore Girls in general gets like a little bit too much for me. Even how much I pay attention to it bothers me a tiny bit. So in the same vein, I can say it would be nice in some ways to see them act like just two normal guys who are kind of moving on with their lives. Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt about this. That's exactly how I felt about this scene. I just sort of, I think I might be getting a little exhausted by that. And I guess that's what I mean when I said it felt a little over the top. It just felt like, look, you know, you're working there, you're getting your order. Like, can't at the very least can't a scene like that be normal?
But John, are you getting exhausted by the Dean and Jess thing because we spend so much time talking about it?
That might be true.
And I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. It's just there's a lot of focus on the boys, and it's the Gilmore Girls.
Yeah. No, I think you might be right there. There's probably some of it is true, but I did sort of feel like, because in most episodes when we talk about it, it's sort of featured. It's a big part of the episode, right? Like, you know, we talked at great lengths about it during the dance-a-thon because it was a huge part of what that episode was about. And we talked about it even in the, you know, the little fair episode, you know, because there was a lot of that going on, the dynamic of the two of them being there. But in tonight's episode, it was just a small scene that felt like it didn't really need to be there. At least that's sort of how I felt about it.
I think they're just building up for something, John.
Maybe so. I mean, and I kind of have a feeling I know what that is because I think I was in I was in that episode. But I want to go back, if that's okay, for a second, to the flashbacks, because I didn't want to like chime in immediately because I wanted to simmer a little bit, but there's something about this moment when you said something about the tone of them just didn't feel right for me. I would have liked for the episode to either be in the present or either be in the past. I kind of didn't like, I just tonally for this show, it just felt very different in a way that just didn't feel Gilmore Girls to me. And those scenes in particular felt a little off. And I know that, like, you know, they were helmed by two actors who are not regulars on the show. We're meeting them for the first time. And they're doing their best, you know, especially the Lorelai character, to, you know, give us a younger version of the Lorelai that we know. But I can't really explain it, only to say that, like, it just, I would have preferred one or the other. I totally appreciate, Mary, all of the like insight that we got from it, and, like, you know, all of the holes that filled in, but I was distracted by the tone.
Yeah,
Diana's flashing.
I agree,
Yeah.
John. That was my only thing, but I'll shut up now.
Diana's flashing, and then Hilly.
I have a question for the group then. Do we think, so obviously the flashbacks are to sort of juxtapose the birth of Rory's baby sibling and Lorelai's birth of Rory. And we're supposed to see these two things as just connected in some way, or we're getting to see Lorelai in that moment as Sherry is now in this moment, and all of these women are sort of sharing in that memory / like the thing that's happening. So do we like that, or do we not like that? Does it make sense, or does it not make sense?
I thought that it did make sense.
Okay.
I thought that it did make sense, and I totally got that. And I understand that probably if you did split them apart and made them, gave them two different episodes, or I don't know, I get that you lose that if you don't have the two sort of if you don't really treat it as flashbacks. I don't know. Maybe it was a filmmaking thing, where so they felt like we were just switching from present to flashback in a way that just felt a little jarring to me. I can't really put my finger on it, except to say that I really, 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 really enjoyed all of the present stuff. Like, I loved the hospital scene. I loved all the stuff with Sherry and Lorelai going down there, and Christopher getting there laid, and him seeing his baby. I probably like the part where we juxtapose that with the past version of her looking at her baby. Probably like that the most. But most of those flashbacks, I think I could have probably, I would have probably preferred for the episode to be mostly in the present.
Well, the way I've always kind of thought of flashbacks, and when people say that that Lorelai and Chris are super out of character and that they don't really fit with the adult versions of themselves, Lorelai says she says in the episode when they're talking about Mia in the inn, she says to Luke, the Independence Inn is where I took my first step. So I think that she was a very different person as a teenager, and I think she's grown a lot. So I think that the inconsistencies in their personalities can be satisfactorily explained by the fact that they've simply grown up.
I always thought that the flashback versus the present in this episode was to show us the difference between Lorelai's experience with getting pregnant and having Rory versus Sherry's experience and having Christopher involved with Sherry's birth. That's one of the ways I kind of always thought it was kind of showing, and to give us some backstory on Emily and Richard's reactions and how people handled things at the time. But
Emily,
I agree,
at the
Chris.
same time,
I think it was I agree, Chris. I think it was to show Chris's role, where when Rory's birth versus Sherry's having her baby. That's what I thought was one of the main reasons.
Well, and it's also Lorelai kind of reminiscing about, she's kind of like meditating on the idea that Sherry's going to soon have Chris's baby just like she did. So I think that it's kind of like from her introspective perspective that we get to see all of these memories kind of in her mind's eye.
I saw that Mary was flashing and Wendy.
I was gonna say, I'm not entirely sure I understand your tone question, but I was gonna say I actually saw those flashbacks as the memories of various characters, not just Lorelai. So like I feel like the first one was definitely Lorelai with the book, but even like the walking in and out, I didn't see that as Lorelai's memory. I feel like it was more Emily's memory. And I know that we moved to Lorelai on the stairs with Christopher, but I almost feel like that's Emily's rendition of what she thought the conversation may have been. So I thought it was like if what you're thinking of tone is that maybe each flashback felt a little different, I think that's because they were probably being seen from different eyes. That's the way I always thought.
Well, that wasn't what I meant. I meant tonally. I actually thought all of the flashbacks tonally were the same, or they felt like they were in the same world. They were obviously designed to look different from the present, right? Like they added a filter to it to give it kind of like a little bit of a 70s type look to it. But I just mean the tone of the flashbacks on a whole fell off for me as in terms of my relationship to the show, like to Gilmore Girls in general. Like just that little group of flashbacks tonally just felt off to me. It just didn't feel like the show that I've developed a relationship with, and I think I could have done without them.
I think they could have conveyed the same thing that I think they were trying to convey without all of the flashbacks. I think the thing I sensed the most during those scenes where Lorelai's at the hospital during Sherry's labor and birth was one of total wistfulness in seeing how Christopher's so present and so excited and so devoted to what's going on, and knowing that she didn't have that, and it's just a big pot. I mean, she went about it her own way, and she fought, but I could never say this myself, and I don't think she could either, that there's still not that little, that little space in you that misses that and feels that hole.
I have a question really quickly, just for you, Mary, or for anyone who has some insight into this. What was it about those flashbacks that provided us? What information did it provide us that we didn't already know? Like, what was something that was like that you would say, like, I did not get that until I saw the flashback. It suddenly was an epiphany to me.
And with actual concern.
Yeah, like I would just like to say, I did see T blinking their mic, and then I saw Diana blinking there. I don't know how long they were waiting, but yeah.
Just to respond to John's question briefly, we did get new information about Lorelai wanting to go to Europe with Chris. That then happened. Never mind.
Yes, that's true. It's tied to it's directly tied to information that we get for this particular episode, though.
We also get the Lorelai telling Chris that no, he can't give up his dream. And we get a lot more of how the parents reacted to the initial news, which has been implied, but we now get to witness it.
That's definitely the part about her feeling or her feelings about Christopher. That's true. I think that was new information for me. But the stuff with the parents, I mean, that the scene that they showed felt very much like what I imagined the scene to be when I met Strobe the first time.
Well, no, I found it interesting that they mentioned abortion because, like, they're ultra conservative, and I can't imagine that abortion was actually an option.
Yeah. Not Richard, not Strobe's reaction, but like Richard and Emily. Like, Emily is actually pretty composed when she first gets news. It's so different from what I would have expected her to do. Am I the only one?
I think that also.
No, you're right about that. You're right.
Prior to this, we've always made speculations of what we think that Christopher's perspective was, or what Lorelai's perspective was, like when we were talking about how he should or should not respond to Sherry's pregnancy news. We were making a lot of speculation. And so I think that at this point, you get a little more clarification, John, about what the actual parents' perspectives were, of their roles and everything like that, of how involved Christopher wanted to be or not involved. If that makes sense. My question to you, though, is like, remember, I believe it was the pilot, we saw the photo on the mantle, and you thought it was kind of silly that was like a segue. How would you tell the story without the flashbacks if you were going to rewrite it?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if I can answer that on the spot.
I think I have an answer.
Please, Carl.
If I can answer. Okay, so yeah. Going off of what was done with that episode, I do agree off of like what John said about the tone of it feeling off. Story-wise, love it. Tone-wise, I'm kind of like, this feels a little rushed. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little rush of the 2000s. Like there was a lot of episode orders that they had to fill back in the day. But the thing is, I really think that like the thing that would have strengthened it, because I mean, I feel like Amy Sherman-Palladino strengthened it by having like the very first scene of the episode be Lorelai and Emily kind of like going back and forth with each other, and then wrapping it up with Lorelai and Emily going back and forth with each other, and those flashbacks being of Lorelai's memories and Emily's memories kind of, you know, put into one of it. Maybe if I had the opportunity, and I was old enough to do this back then, I probably would have given the idea that the cinematography would have flowed from present day to the past to give that tone, like to kind of make it feel a bit better, so then the tone of it doesn't feel off, like what John mentioned. Kind of like they're looking through the books for Europe, and then Lorelai and Christopher are looking through the books or something, like in the house or something, like just kind of like doing something like that with each shot, because as I do remember,
some sort of a visual clue that we've just changed time would have, I probably would have appreciated those a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's probably what would have made the tone feel better and more familiar, and probably would have hit more on like what the Palladinos have done with the show, because they are really big film connoisseurs, and that's a pretty big film move. Well, common film move, like you go from the present to the past with the same shot. That's what I would have done to improve the story better. Writing wise, no, I wouldn't have touched that. But that's because like Amy Sherman-Palladino's writing, I look up to it like it's godly, you know, like what a whole bunch of people in Hollywood do with Aaron Sorkin. So I wouldn't have touched the writing, but cinematography wise, I would have improved that a little bit.
This was Amy's episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like for the cinematography area, I think that's what they were trying to do with like the costuming and for that filter that they had, where it kind of gave it that antique kind of film, you know, to make it like it was set in the 80s.
Gee, by the way, I love your Kurt Cat avatar there. Just wanted to say.
Yeah.
Wow. John, could it be the lack of humor?
There was some of that, yeah. I think that's definitely part of it. There was the fact that there was very little humor in it, and then, you know, and I also think, like, you know, for example, at the very end, they sort of did what Carl is suggesting. One of the last scenes, the camera pans over to the picture on the mantle, and then they dissolve to basically the same angle of that mantelpiece, now with a different filter on it, and then of course the camera keeps going, and we see Emily and Richard there, from, you know, in the past. And that, for me, I felt like that was like one of the only times where they did that, and where it felt like the transition from one to the other wasn't jarring and caught me off guard. But then that's the reason why I asked the question, like, what were the things that we really got from all of that? And I guess I just don't feel like I got enough from it. Like that there were so many things that I was like, yeah, but I kind of already knew that, or I kind of already felt like that was probably what that was like. You're right, Mary. There are a few things that are like a little nuanced piece of story information that I didn't get. But I think you might be onto something. That the fact that those scenes were so light on humor, and the fact that the actress playing Lorelai didn't quite get all of that snark the way Lauren Graham gets it all. Maybe I just couldn't get, like it just didn't grab me the way the rest of the show does.
I think the young Chris seems really weak too.
Oh, I definitely agree about young Chris for sure. Regina, you just don't like Chris.
Sorry, I think Diana was trying to say something. I apologize, Diana.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, that's okay. I agree that it's a little dry. And nothing beats Suki tossing that cake in the trash in the beginning, which made me laugh out loud. But
I think that's her only scene in the show.
It was so good. But I think what we get in the flashback that I do really like and really noticed this time around was, the first conversation we see with young Lorelai and young Chris is about the Europe trip. And it's Chris who's kind of pushing it along. He's like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And it's like a very adventurous spirit. It's Chris on the motorcycle. He's very much like, this is what we're going to do. And, and then when it's them sitting on the stairs, he's like, it's fine. We'll just do, we'll do what they're saying. And he just like totally flip-flops from the Chris on the motorcycle to like, it's totally fine. Like we'll just do what they say. And he's a child about it, when Lorelai knows that everything's changed, and she can do whatever she wants. They can do whatever they want because they're adults now. They have a baby to think about, and he's not on board. And I think we kind of know this because we know Chris, and like everything he's been doing up until this point is been a little back and forth, He's like, he just kind of goes with like what's happening now. He like sort of makes a new decision based on what's happening now. It's not always what he wants. It's kind of like, well, I guess I should do this. And I think I love the flashbacks for showing us like, this is who Chris is. Chris doesn't know what he wants. That's who he is.
Anna was flashing, and then I'd love to talk about Chris.
Yeah, Anna, wait, where'd Anna go? Oh, I think, did Anna leave?
She might
have had to leave. Yeah. Sometimes folks just sort of have to duck out quietly, especially on the East Coast. It's kind of getting late.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, I was just gonna say what Diana said, especially about Chris. Oh my God. Okay, this episode and Chris and Lorelai, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of get who Christopher is at this point. Oh, I kind of get who Lorelai is at this point. But that really kind of solidified for me when I watched the episode. Christopher, you are a sheep. That was the number one thing. Like, that was all I knew. I was like, you do what people above you tell you to do. That's why you got that nice little corporate job. That's why you ride that motorcycle when you're like in your 30s. Like,
did you say
come on, sir? A sheep. Mm-hmm. I 100% feel like that Christopher is a sheep. That's why he annoys the dog poop out of me. I didn't know that you recorded this stuff, John, so I'm going to do this not to cut. But the thing is, that was it. Like, young Christopher proved to me why I don't like Christopher. It's kind of like the episode in and of itself, Dear Emily and Richard, it shows us what we already know, and then it kind of doubles down on those feelings that you may kind of have of the character or something. At least that's what happened with me in the first watch. I kind of realized, oh, I don't like Christopher. Oh, Emily is a very caring mom, just a caring mom in her own way that she thinks is right. Like, Richard is pretty avoidant, which is why Lorelai acts pretty avoidant as well. Like, kind of saw that stuff going on, so on and so forth. And also the stuff with Sherry and her friends. But we haven't gotten to that point yet. So I do have points about that as well. But I do agree with you, Diana, the fact that young Christopher just was like, well, maybe we should do all this stuff. Well, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. It was like, yeah, Christopher, you're the sheep.
Yeah, and you're right.
Lorelai is the wolf.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you're right, like the title of the episode, I'm really glad you brought that up, because the title of the episode is Dear Emily and Dear Emily and Richard. And it just shows us that like Lorelai is making all the decisions. Like, she's the one who writes that note. She's the one who says, "Dear Mom and Dad, I'm going to the hospital by myself. Dear Mom and Dad, I've left." Like she's the one who's like literally having to make all the decisions that's best for her and her new family.
But so do you think though, because I can't quite work out Christopher, but do you think Lorelai is partly responsible for why he wasn't there? I mean, for example, for the birth, did she not call him? Because how can he be there if he didn't know that she was going into labor? I'm not defending Chris. I'm just like thinking about it.
That's fair, Veronica. That's fair.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I like that question because I kind of wondered that after them hearing their parents talking, and Christopher said, you know, maybe we should do this, and they had that, you know, like, no, we're not going to do that. I feel like that was the moment that Lorelai was like, okay, I'm just going to do this myself.
Yeah, and
I was
so
wondering that too.
He actually maybe would have wanted to be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Wendy.
Oh, no, I mean, they had an empty space there, though. We don't know what happened for her whole pregnancy, do we? I mean, maybe a decision on Christopher's part happened there. You know, I want to do this. I mean, we've already agreed that he's a wishy-washy flip-flopper. So we don't know what happened in that time, whether he goes, okay, I want to do this. Oh, well, you know, I don't want to do this. Oh, I want to do this. And the only constant would be Lorelai and herself. So that decision, maybe she made it for a good reason in not telling him.
Yeah, because I still can't work out, like, you know, Strobe and Francine talk about Chris throwing his life away, but then at the same time, he wasn't there helping Lorelai to raise Rory. So what was he doing in those years?
John. Throwing his life away without her.
Sheeple. He was being a sheep. Being a whole sheep. That's what he was doing with his wife.
Now, guys, John is flashing here.
Oh, no, I mean, I was just waiting for if you guys have something that you want to continue, I don't mind tapping my finger there for a while. But I think that I can get on board with the idea that we've learned a little bit more about Christopher from these flashbacks. I don't really see it as flip-flopping so much as who Christopher really is the guy who's on the stairs. Who Christopher wants to be is the guy who is, you know, going to Europe and sleeping on park benches. And that, I think, is reflective of his character on the show. Like, I feel like we've seen that from him for most of what we've seen so far. I think it was nice to see it in that context and see it, you know, presented that way. But to me, it just tells me that he's afraid of he's afraid to take risks, but he wants to be able to take risks, and he wants to be able to be that person that that she's talking about, but that when things get really difficult for him and when things get really intense, he tends to just go the safe road. Which I don't really classify that so much as a sheep, but I think I understand what you mean by that. I see that I just see that more as just a person who's afraid to really follow their dreams, which I think also kind of speaks to what a lot of people were really frustrated about with him when he, you know, sort of ran back to Sherry as soon as he found out that he was going to be a father. There were at least some folks who were saying, like, you know, you love Lorelai, why can't you just go for that? Like, and you know, you could see him as sort of like, no, this is what you're supposed to do, and that's what I'm going to do because of that. And so I think that's what we see there from him, is we see a guy who like wants to be this, like, you know, this person who lives life to its fullest, and you know, but that when things get really difficult, that he just kind of reverts to this like child is scared to do anything without his hand being held.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that I'm just gonna spit out something that was a feeling for me. I think when I hit rewatching the series, I think the fifth time, that was the fifth or sixth time, can't remember, that I really felt like Christopher's feelings for Lorelai completely valid, completely, real, 100%. But it really did feel like he loved Lorelai because she was not afraid to be herself. And he wanted to have that same thing as well. Totally. And that was something that clicked for me. Yeah, when I was watching the series. And I was like, Christopher, you love Lorelai because you want to be Lorelai. Like, that's how I felt. Like, you want to be that brave, bold person. But you're not that brave, bold person. And that's okay. Just be who you are. I still don't like you, but just be who you are.
But he doesn't like he doesn't like who he is. I don't think he likes who he is. So do we want him to try and find the ideal version of himself, or do we want him to because that's the main, I think that's the main thing. He wants to be that bold. Mm-hmm. Very clear from this episode. And so is it enough to say like, well, you're not that bold and deal with it, or should we want him to become that bold? Should we want him to be the ideal version of himself that he sees?
I think I want that. I think I want him to be the person that he wants to be, and I agree he wants to be Lorelai. I think what Carl is getting at in terms of the sheep is, Chris is like a little bit of almost like a people pleaser. Like he's not super in touch with what he wants. He's very much like, well, I'll try this thing, I'll try that thing. Like, we never even really get like what his job is. Like, we don't know what his passions are. We don't know what he's like really trying to do. We just know that he kind of shows up and then disappears and shows up again, and like he's at various stages of success. But we don't even get in the flashback like who he wanted to be. Like, he doesn't really have any direction, further than let's go to Paris, which is like a perfectly reasonable 16-year-old dream, but we don't get anything more than that. And so I feel like with Christopher, and I really like Christopher, but I think with him, like, we always just kind of don't, like, he's just always looking for someone else to tell him what to do. And I think Lorelai served that purpose for a while. And then once she realized that, like, no, he's not going to be there. Like, she said that in an episode where she's like, he wasn't ready to be your dad. He wasn't ready to be a father. You weren't ready, Christopher. Like, she keeps saying that, like, she's decided. And I don't think she's that wrong.
It definitely was an absolute thought. Instead of like, maybe he could be ready. She was like, no, you're not ready. Maybe later, not now. And that was definitely, it feels like it was definitely like a personal thought there.
Do you think it was reasonable or her place to make that call of whether or not he was ready to be a father or not?
I think she had to make a decision out of necessity, which was she's 16 years old. She can stay at home and have it all kind of go like in this, like get swept into this ocean of like, my parents are going to make all the decisions and I'll have zero autonomy, or I got to go. And I think there wasn't really any time to decide whether or not Chris is with me or not. Like, I feel like she probably was like, he's out, I got to go.
Shelly, you're tapping your mic?
Oh, I kind of was, yeah. I don't know. This is weird for me. This whole situation, like I when I was 9 years old, I watched this unfold in my own household with maybe not so dramatic, but with my sister who was pregnant at 16, 17, and she's actually just had her 31st wedding anniversary with her husband. She's been married to the whole time. So I think, is anybody really ready at 16 to have a baby? And I think she didn't give him an opportunity to be the dad he could have been. And I think that you grow up real quick when you have something like that happen. And I just think it was kind of shitty of her to just, sorry about my language, to take over and just decide what he should do, if that's what she did. Because I like, there is that gap that you don't know during the whole pregnancy, like what happened there, like what kind of conversations were going on. Because to me, it looks like she just decided to call the shots, and that he really didn't have any say in it.
I really like that idea that it's true. People grow up real fast and are forced to grow up, when they are parents. I mean, I'm feeling it myself. I'm in my 40s and I feel like I'm being forced to sort of grow up. Imagine somebody at 16, right? And so we're criticizing, or, not we're criticizing, but people criticize Christopher for being immature and for not being ready to be a father. But if he didn't get the chance to grow up real fast, then what could have Christopher turned out to be had he been given the challenge to grow up really fast?
I hate not seeing that middle part, because that would just put so many pieces to the puzzle together for us.
Which middle part?
During her pregnancy, her actual, from when she finds out to when she delivers, we don't really know what's going on, do we, with the interaction with her parents and with Christopher? Did he, was he there during the appointments? Did he show up for her at Lama's class? No, I'm sure she didn't do that,
Or even like so she took her when she was like, didn't they say when she was like a toddler or something? So she wasn't even a newborn when she left. So what happened there? Like, did he have any sort of, was he seeing her, or was he just off to college, or no, he wasn't even in college yet? So I think that's a big missing chunk that they never really clarify that. So
definitely. And that's what I meant, because I'm like, well, did Lorelai tell him that she was going into labor? And then did she tell him that she was moving to Stars Hollow? We never know whether he was actually a part of that or whether she just decided, I'm doing this alone. But I guess with the labor thing, we see he's not mad when they're viewing new baby Rory. He wasn't saying like, I can't believe you didn't call me. So I guess we're filling in those gaps in that he didn't really care he wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you mentioned that, Veronica, because I was just thinking of that when we were talking about when Wendy was talking about that middle part. I was thinking about the fact that she had the baby, she had Rory, and he was looking in the viewing room, seeing the baby, and was like, she's pretty. And Lorelai says she's perfect. And I believe that there was the scene when she left and Richard and Emily were leaving. It did show that Lorelai and Rory were there for a little bit of time. Like it looked like they were lived in there. So probably like maybe the shortest time I would think of, like 2 weeks. And
they said she had, the first time in a year I haven't tripped over the stroller.
Oh, first time in a year. You're right. Oh my God. In a year. So then it was like a year or more, or so, like a year or more. And Lorelai left. So it's kind of like that right there. Oh my God. Especially when he's talking about like that middle part, it kind of makes me go, okay, something happened there with Christopher that made Lorelai go, okay, I'm just going to go to Stars Hollow with my baby. And it's done. But also, weren't they seniors? Or no, like, were they juniors or seniors when this all happened?
She dropped, isn't in the lecture that she gave in front of the class, the high school class, didn't she say she dropped out and got her GED, or is that what?
Yeah, she said that she went for as long as she could, but then she eventually had to drop out and obtain her GED, like you said.
Mm-hmm. She was probably a junior, senior. If she had her in the fall, she must have been pregnant. she was probably pregnant through her sophomore, if she was 16 through her sophomore year into her junior year is probably when she had her at the beginning of her junior year.
That part with the stroller always broke my heart because I'm guessing it's probably been a year that, and maybe not as long, but some time has passed because the baby's old enough to sit up in a stroller. And it always breaks my heart because they've been there living in the house for quite some time, and then Lorelai just leaves. And it's like at that point, I think they've bonded together, whether there's tension or who knows what's going on with Lorelai and her parents. But it always breaks my heart that she took Rory away, and then just because I'm assuming that they've been bonding with Rory, they've been spending time with her, helping change diapers, all that. Well, maybe not change diapers, but you know what I mean, like helping raise her. And then I get what people are saying about Lorelai needing to take charge. It just always breaks my heart that she needed to take charge for her life, but she also had a little baby that they had bonded with that she took away.
It also explains why they have so much anger in season 1. And
absolutely.
Can't get over it easily because she kind of broke their hearts as well as just kind of disappeared on them and all that stuff.
Absolutely, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely more about when Lorelai left rather than Lorelai getting pregnant at 16.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I completely agree with that, Veronica.
Yeah, I will admit, like, when I watched Gilmore Girls the first time around, I didn't really understand why they were so upset with her. I was like, oh, is it because she got pregnant at such a young age? And then the Dear Emily and Richard episode really confirmed like why they were so upset with her, because they were living with their daughter and granddaughter. Like, again, Lorelai is their only child. And then they have this granddaughter here, you know, at the house and stuff. And, you know, even when they were about to leave to the event, you know, it's kind of like, oh, it's my first time probably not tripping over the stroller. You know, she acknowledges that she makes mistakes and stuff, and acknowledges that, you know, the baby is there and stuff like that. Like, Rory became a part of their family, and then Lorelai just left. And seeing that episode for the first time, it just really cleared my eyes why the relationship between her and her parents were so tense in the beginning of the series.
Oh yeah, well, and they stepped up to help her. They, you know, they may have disapproved or had a lot of mixed feelings about her getting pregnant, but it looks like they gave her a roof. They gave her, you know, probably the stroller. They did all these things to help her, and then
they supported her the best way they could.
Exactly.
She must have left like right as she was 18 then, or something, and as soon as they had no say, right? Because if she was under 18, wouldn't she?
That's a good point.
Hey everybody. I'm gonna have to jump off.
Yes,
this was one of the more lively discussions that we've had. A lot of really great casual conversation over a topic that we're all pretty passionate about, which I love. I didn't get a chance to say, but I will. I really liked Sherry in this episode. I really liked her in this episode. I know that, I mean, I get it. She's supposed to be a totally over-the-top character, but for whatever reason, I liked her. I liked her. I mean, if we can all like Luke when he's at his tweaked, craziest, you know, super anxiety-ridden, I think that Sherry, under these circumstances, acting like that was pretty fun, to be honest.
It was a fun little plug in the episode. I will agree with that.
Yeah, it's fun to watch her in the episode.
You know, the one thing that scared me though about like Sherry and her friends and like moving into the city when I was watching this with my team was I really thought that like, okay, when I move to LA, I'm gonna probably become friends with people like this, and like if a big crisis happens, they're all not going to be available.
Yeah,
because I was like freaking.
Her friends were kind of jerks in this. I mean, they just weren't very. I mean, they're blaming her for her baby going in. You know, going into.
Yeah, Sherry's friends.
Yeah, they're so busy.
Sherry's friends are pretty awful. Like they're the part of the whole Sherry storyline that I like the least. I don't mind Sherry. She for me is like, as you know, like at this point, she's like Taylor for me, you know, like annoying, but kind of in a way that I find somewhat endearing. And her friends are real weird, and probably the least enjoyable of that storyline. But I just loved that Lorelai went down there for her. I just thought that was awesome. And really a peek into the Lorelai, like deep into the Lorelai character that I don't think we see that often, because we mostly see Lorelai being snarky and judgmental and all of that. And this was a moment where she says she put everything, you know, she was doing it for Rory, but I think she was doing it for Sherry too, and she was doing it for Rory's, you know, unborn half sister, and it just really it was really nice. It really worked.
For sure, and she was so sweet to Emily as well. So Lorelai's superhero in this episode.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, one thing Lorelai always does is she always sides with the mom. Like she always like takes like Lane's mom's side if it like has to be, or you know. So I feel like with Sherry, she's like, I gotta help. I gotta be there.
Yeah, there's a mom, and moms. I gotta help the moms. Yeah. It's great. All right, everyone, I'm gonna jump off. As always, made everybody moderators, so please feel free to stick around and continue talking. And at this point, you can probably start throwing out spoilers left and right. We are returning tomorrow for Swan Song. I that title is familiar, so I'm pretty sure I'm in that episode.
Love it.
And Sean's going to be with us on Friday. So only 2 days away, and Sean Gunn will be joining us for an episode that has something to do with hockey, I guess.
Get that penalty box ready, Sean. Get that penalty box ready.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. So of course, of course you can feel free to spread the word however you'd like that he's going to be joining us. I'm going to probably start tweeting and you know, posting on social probably tomorrow morning to get people excited, and hopefully we'll have some new folks joining us on this.
Woo!
All right.
It's so cool.
And then have a good night, John. Thanks again for your time.
Epic.
And then what's Saturday? Why did you say that? I'm
the 2 episodes back to back that we have scheduled for Saturday are epic.
Oh, my favorite one's Sunday night.
Oh, because I was going to actually ask you that, because I saw in the Remarcus chat that you were like, can't wait, and I was like, what is on Saturday? Exactly.
So good.
Okay, cool. So those episodes are really good. Great. So, and that's Saturday. 2 episodes.
Okay.
The morning and the evening episodes are okay.
So
great.
I'm afraid of saying this stuff because, John, sometimes you and I disagree. Like, to me, this was a really good episode.
No, Mary, it's good.
But to me,
Oh, Saturday night is
being, and especially being like morning and night, like they're going to be right after each other.
Oh, great. Cool. Very, very cool.
Mary.
And I don't know if any of you saw, but I did a little Twitter back and forth with my bestie Todd Lowe, and Todd is down for joining us. I just have to call. I have to, you know, talk to him, send him a text or whatever. We need to work out when would be the best time for him to join us. So, what's up?
Butt kiss episode.
Oh, I'll definitely want him in for that. But you know, I play it right. He might come back for several, or at least 2.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so thank you everyone once again for spending your evening with me. And you know, you folks on the East Coast, you are real warriors to be staying up as late as you have been every night. I'll be back tomorrow at 7 my time. I hope to see most of you, if not all of you, there.
Thanks, John.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.